Okay, here's a little video on today's math homework. We just started repeating patterns, and the tricky thing this year is they are being asked to find a term that's a lot further along in the pattern. So here's kind of the trick to what we talked about, how to solve this. We want to identify the core, identify the length of the core, and then start at the last number of the core and go up by the length. So question 1, the core of a repeating pattern is 3, 5, 4, 6, 2. What is the 53rd term of the pattern? Step 1 is already done for us. Step 2 is easily identifiable. It's a 5-digit core. So there's 5 digits there. So step 3 is where we're going to start at the last number of the core and count up by the length. So we're going to count up by 5 because it's a 5-digit core. So this is going to be, the 2 is going to be the 5th term of the pattern. It's going to be the 10th term, the 15th term, the 20th term, the 25th, the 30th, the 35th, the 40th, the 45th, the 50th. So if 2 is the 50th term in the pattern, that means the 3 is going to be the 51st term, 5 is going to be the 52nd term, and the 4 is going to be the 53rd term. So the correct answer here is C. Same idea for question 2. What might the 33rd term of this repeating pattern be? So we're going to identify the core, which in this case is 3, 4, 5, 6. It is 4 digits long. And then step 3 is the important step. We're going to start at the last number of the core and count up by 4 digits. So the number 6 is the 4th term. It's also the 8th term. It's going to be the 12th term. It's going to be the 16th term. It's going to be the 20th term, the 24th term, the 28th term, the 32nd term. If the 6 is the 32nd term, we go one more step, 32. That means this would be the 33rd term. Okay. So how did we find that out? We counted by 4s, starting with the 6. And let's go to, I'm going to skip to this last question. This last question is a really good question because it's open-ended. There are many different possible answers. Some students have a lot of hard time with these types of questions because they're trying to think of one way to do it and one right way to do it when the truth is there's a million different ways. We did talk in class about odds and evens. So the easiest way a student might be able to solve this question, and let's go over it again. The 34th term of a repeating pattern is 8. What might the pattern be? So we talked about odds and evens, how if we had a 2-digit core, so something like this. Oops. The first term, the 1, is always going to be an odd number term. So it's going to be the first term, the 3rd term, the 5th term, the 7th term, the 9th term, the 21st term, the 33rd term. Okay? And therefore the 8 in this pattern is always going to be an even number term. So it's going to be the 2nd term, it's going to be the 4th term, it's going to be the 6th term, the 8th term, and it's going to end up being the 34th term. So that is one way to do it. Another really good option is to pick a core of 5 digits and then figure out where the 8 needs to go. So if you recognize that if you have 5 digits, your last number is going to be the 5th term, the 10th, the 15th, the 20th, the 30th, and the 35th, then you know that the second last number is going to be the 34th term. So if you picked a 5-digit code, a 5-digit core, 3, 6, 9, 8, 2, then that second last number has to be the 8. So that's the first term, second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 15th, 20th, 25th, 30th, 35, and of course the 8 would be the 34th.